Okay, what we're going to talk about today is the new version 20 of the v20 EA for trading baskets. What I'm going to do is start right from the beginning of installing the platform, so the new trader out there just joining the forum can also get started up here from page 1. So let's get started. This is probably going to be quite a long video. Okay, the first thing I want you to do is go to your C drive and create a new folder. This is where we'll install the platform. And give it a name. I'm just going to call it ABC underscore Forex. Put it at the top of the list. You don't want to install it down here into the program files. You don't want to put it there. You want to create a folder up here, and that's where we're going to install it. So now go to your broker and get your platform, and then just start going through the steps it shows you here to go through. And when you come to this one here, this is where you're going to install it. You notice it tells you to install it in the program file. Don't do that. Browse, go to the C drive, highlight the ABC Forex, which we created. That's where we want to put it. Click next and just answer yes. Okay, after you agree to their newsletter and go through the rest of the steps, you should come up with something like this, similar to this here. I'm just going to clean this up a little bit. I don't want all this stuff on the screen here. Okay, after I cleaned it up a little bit, I ended up with something like this here. You want to leave the dollar-yen pair open because we'll be using that to put our indicators on later on. Okay, so once we have that now, let's close this down, or not close it, just minimize it here for a minute. And you should have downloaded the zip file from the forum. What I want to do is extract everything that's in it. And after you extract it, you should have something that looks like this. This is what was in that folder. We'll be using that. So now what you want to do is open up your platform again. Go up to the Files menu and open the data folder. This is where we're going to install. Copy all these indicators and experts too. Okay, so on the left here we have the data folder. And we're going to click on this. And we're going to open up the experts. And we're going to copy our experts over there. Okay, we got the experts over there. Now we might as well do the files next. What these are the text files that contain pairs for the different baskets we'll be using. Put that over there. Now we can do the indicators. Be sure you put these indicators in there, because without these the EA is not going to work. And last, I think we got a script we got to put over here yet. And I believe we got one template, which is back here in this. Put him over there. This is the template we'll be using for demonstration here. Okay, we got them all in there, so we can close out the zip file, get rid of the zip file, and we can also close out our data file. Okay, now in order to see any of these, you're going to have to restart the platform just like you used to. Stop it and start it back up again. And now one of the first things you want to do is go up here to the options, go under expert advisors, and turn these all on. Turn this one off. So make sure it looks like that. Later on, if you're going to do email and stuff like that, you can go over here and set up the email ones, but we're not going to do that right now. That'll be up to you. Now the next way we want to do is when you download this thing, it doesn't have much history for any of the pairs. So what we're going to do is download as much history as we can. Open up your Experts tab so you can see what's going on. And here's the script we'll be using to do that. Just grab it, drag it over on the screen. You notice down here it says it was loaded successfully. Now this thing will probably take about 10 minutes to download all this data. So for now, I'm going to just halt the video here, and I'll come back when it's finished its download. Okay, it finally finished. It looked like it took about 10 minutes or so. And you can see we downloaded quite a bit of data here. Downloaded data for all these different pairs and all these different time frames from the M1 all the way up to the monthly, I guess that is. So that's why it takes quite a while, but you got to have all this data in there. If you don't have it in there, it's not going to work. Okay, so we're done with that. Now the next thing we're going to do, we're going to go over to our custom indicators. Now you notice the ones we put in here were the basket create. That's one of them we added. The Hinky Ash and the IXO1 and IXO2. And you notice those are all grayed out. That don't mean nothing in this case here. That's fine. It just means that this just contains the execute file. It does not contain the code file. But you don't need the code file to run these. And as you notice, these all have 610 after them. That's one thing you want to check. You want to go up to your help file and look at about and make sure you are using version 610. This will not run on anything earlier than version 610. Now these you all, before we get into those, we're going to create our basket. And in this case, we're going to do a 15-minute. And remember those, we're going to call it JPY7. And the file we're going to import with this basket pairs on is the JPY7 text file, which is one of those files we installed over into the files folder. I'll show you in just a minute. But what this will do, this will automatically load that text file and create a basket chart for us, 15-minute basket chart of those 7 yen pair automatically. So I click OK. Now I'll show you that folder over here. Remember, if we put him over here, files, we have other videos explaining this, so you may want to go back and look at some of those. But here is that one. It's just a text file. You can create these yourself. All you got to do is just open up Notepad and create these, and put the number of pair that's going to be in the basket, and then the pairs under it, just like this, all capital letters. And this is the one we imported. So this is the one we're using to make our basket out of. Now you notice this other text file up here is also identical. That one was created by our basket creator. Created that one up here. The reason for that one is that will be our link when we load our EA. The EA, if you turn the link on, will automatically look at its basket name down below that you put it on, and it'll try to find a corresponding text file for it. If it finds one, it will automatically load the same pairs into the EA. So it saves you a little bit of time. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go up here, open up our offline chart, and there it is. There's our offline chart. Now sometimes what I do is I go back over here and open up the indicator again and click OK. But sometimes this offline chart gets a little goofy when you first load it, but this one looks alright. Okay, now this offline chart, here it is, the JPY7, the N7 pairs, made out of 7 yen pairs, will be the one that we put our EA in it on, and also our other 3 indicators here. Now I have included a template for this, so to save a little bit of time, I think I'll just use the template here. You should all know how to put these indicators on the chart. But you have to use those indicators or nothing is going to work. And here it is. Let me delete these. These must have been when I made the template from something else. Just get them off the screen. Okay, so this is our template for our yen 7-pair basket. Now remember I showed you the name of that text file that the basket creator had created and put it over in the files folder? Well, it used it because it looked at it. What happens when you put the EA on the chart, the EA looks down here and sees what the name of the chart is, what your basket chart is. In this case it was a JPY7. And what it did, it looked over in the files folder and it found a text file with the same name, so it loaded it. And you notice it put the same pairs over here. These are the ones that this particular basket is made up of. It automatically loaded them for us, so we didn't have to type these in or do nothing. And I'll show you where that is in a minute here. Now what I'm going to do is, use the veil to right click on the screen and open up the experts properties. You can do that, but don't make any changes over here if you do it that way the first time. What you want to do is, if you're going to make any changes over here, is stop the robot. Make sure he's stopped. May take a couple clicks sometimes on the robot stop to get him to stop. Make sure it says robot is stopped in red. Then you can open this up, and now you can make any changes here you want. Now when you make the changes, when you're done, then you click OK, and that'll start the robot back up again. If you don't click OK, if you click cancel, you will now start the robot back up. You have to click OK to start him back up. See, now he came back up again. But like I said, you can also do this if you just want to look at them, but don't want to make any changes. Don't make any changes when the robot is running over here. But now I can just look at them because I just want to show you what they're all doing. Now be sure you use a magic number. You should all know that by now in case you have more than one EA running, so they don't get confused, because the robot will open and close trades based on that magic number. And then of course you got your lot. And then you got your comment if you want to add a comment in. And then of course we've had these before, the go long. If you want to turn off so the robot doesn't take a long trade, you can set that to false. Same with a short. If you don't want the robot to take a short trade, set that to false. But we can also do that over here, so don't worry about that. Same way with these other ones, we can do them all over onto the buttons now. So, and then we got take profit. Now we did make some changes here. As you notice, I've added a take profit percent account balance, which you can put a percentage in there of how much you want to look for a take profit depending on what your account is. So if your account is $5,000 and you put 1% in there, it will look for a profit of $50. Or you can enter it in as a take profit as a dollar amount. Rather than a percentage, you can say, I want a $5 profit, a $10 profit, or a $5.46 profit, something like that. You can put that in there. And then also we still have our take profit by pips for each pair. So if you, like in this case, we got 7 pair. So if you put 20 in there, it would be 140 pip take profit on the basket chart. And they work the same down here for the stop loss percent account balance, or you can have it in a dollar amount or pips per pair, just like before. Now, one thing you don't want to do, don't select more than one of these. You can only use one at a time. So just pick one you want to use and select it. Like for now, all we got selected here is a stop loss of 25 pips each pair. And if you want a trail stop loss, you can turn that to true. Now that's only going to trail the pip stop loss. It's not going to trail the dollar stop losses. The dollar stop losses are fixed. Once you set them in there, they're fixed. They do not trail. And now we have also break even. If you want to use break even, you can turn that on. And you also got break even pips each pair. So what that means, like now this is set for 30, it will not set the break even line on the chart until you reach 7 times 30, which is 210. So when this reaches 210 pips of profit, then the break-even line will be put on the chart. And there's also a little bit of if you want to put a break-even offset in there, sometimes a little bit of a fudge factor, or if you want to make a little bit of a money on your break-even, you can put pips in there. Now this is just straight pips, it's not pips per pair, so if you want an offset of 5 pips, just put 5 pips in there, just a simple 5 pips. Now this has changed a little bit. We now have our entries listed all together here. Entries 0 through 4. Whichever one you want to use, you just set them to true. In our case, we're using 2 and 3, which corresponds to 2 and 3 over here being orange. We do no longer have these separate take profit and stop loss for each one. That's all handled up above by the main take profit and stop loss values. That's kind of a global thing that takes care of all these. We don't have separate ones anymore. We weren't using them separate anyway, so. But we still have the separate settings for entry 0. If you want to set up your own entry 0, you can set it up any way you want here with any combination of the HAS IX01 and IX02. You can set that up there. Then we got entry filters. Trade one trade per candle if you want. That's normally set to true. That's so you don't get caught in a loop of opening and closing the trade on one candle. It'll only take one trade on the candle and then it'll close it. And if you only want to take one trade altogether, say you just want to set it for one trade and then you don't want it to take anymore, you can set this to true, and then it'll only take one trade, and then it'll go into standby, and it'll wait till you start it back up again, tell it to take another trade. And you get your maximum spread each pair. In this case, the default is 4, so in this case we got 7 pairs, so the maximum spread it would allow would be 28. When it hits 28, it won't take a trade on the chart, basket chart. Now this is the enable indicator link. I usually set to true. What that does, it links the settings of the HAS and the IX01 and IX02. You see IX01 down here is 400. IX02 is 800. If you look over here, they match. Same way with the HAS. I can't do the HAS right now because this is on the screen, but the HAS will also match what this HAS setting is. This links the two. So if I go over here now and change this HAS setting on the screen, it'll automatically change over here without me having to go into the EA and change any of these settings over here, which makes it a little bit handier. I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but remember when you do the IXOs, put them onto the screen, you have to have an IX01 and an IX02. You can't use two IX01s or two IX02s. You have to have one of each because that's how the EA tells them apart. These are just the manual settings. If you turn off the enable indicator link, if you set this to false, then you can set these manually. Then we got all our different exits. Now remember, these exits are always active. Even if you take a manual trade, these exits will be active unless you go over here and turn them off, which we'll talk about in a minute. But if you leave any of these turned on and you don't have them turned off, they could trigger the exit for a manual trade. Even rather than you thought it was an automatic trade, even a manual trade will get exited with these if you leave them turned on and you have them enabled over here. Now the D, this is an IX01. D stands for direction, which just means it's a closed green or red candle. IX01 with an X means it's a confirmed cross, which that means it changes from green to red, and then the next candle is when it's confirmed. It has to wait for the candle to close. It is not a confirmed red candle until it closes. So that's what the D and the X stand for. Same way with IX02, D and X, direction and cross. Same way with HAS. Direction is color. Cross is a confirmed color change. Now remember that color change, confirmed color change, is only good for one candle, and that's the candle that it is confirmed on. After that, once it gets to the third candle, it will automatically go away. So it's only good for a confirmed cross. So that cross is no good up here anymore. It is gone. It's only good on the confirming candle after it closes. So you got different combinations here. You got a HAS, IX01, direction and cross. That means it takes a HAS direction, has to be the same as the cross of the IX01. So here you got a HAS direction coming down, red, right? Now if you look down here, when you get the cross going to red of, say, the IXO, whatever you had it set at, confirmed, then you would get an exit right here. That would give you an exit because you got red up here, which is direction, and you got a confirmed cross down here. So it would exit. Same way with this next one here. This is the HAS direction with IX02 cross. So that's the same thing with direction up here and IX01. The other one, IX02. The other one was direction up here in IX01. And the next one is direction on both of them. So if the HAS is coming down, if it's red, it's a confirmed red candle. And if you got a confirmed red bar down here on either IXO1 or IXO2, depending on which one of these you're on. This one is 2, both direction. You will get an exit. And remember, you can select as many of these you want or none of them. Now here we have the Haas price action touch as an exit. Now what that is, it'll put a line on the chart. Like if you're in a downtrend, it'll put a line on the chart just above the last closed Haas candle. And that will be your exit. Now that'll keep moving down, following the Haas in this case, until you got over here, and then probably see here you would go back up and you'd hit it. Or you'd even hit it here if you didn't have no offset. See, that's what the offset is for. And in this case, this price action would have came back up. If you didn't have the offset in there, it would have hit that Haas exit. But with a 20 pip offset, this is just strictly 20 pips, not per candle, just 20 pips. You got 20 pips probably up in here someplace. Safety factor. So it just depends on how close you want to put that stop loss to the Haas. Gives you an offset. Okay, now we got pairs to trade. Now this is that enable the basket pair link. Remember I told you about the text file that had all the names in it that the basket create function created, and then when it loaded them over here. This is what turns that on. If you turn that off, then it will not use that file with all the names in it that it created. If you turn that off. If you want to turn that off, you can set that to false. If you want to use your own name, a different name, you can type it into this square here and load your own different text file. So by doing it that way, what you can do is create a basket, say, with the core 5 pair. Create a basket with that and use that as your signal to alert you to trade the C14 or the core 14 if you want to. So you'd set this to false and set this to C14, which is the other text file that's in the chart files list over there, and then it'll load all 14 pair, and it'll trade the 14 pair based on a signal derived from the 5 pair chart. So you can do that. Also, by setting this to false and leaving this blank, you can put the EA on a single pair chart. Doesn't have to be a basket chart, but a single pair chart. Just leave these blank. I mean, set this one to false and leave this one blank. Then when you load the EA, it will automatically come up with just that single pair if you put it on a single pair chart. And if you set this to false and leave this blank, and the EA looks down here and says this is a basket chart, it isn't a single pair chart, it will load whatever you have listed here. Now you can do up to 14. Put 14 in there. Just don't leave any spaces between them. Another thing you got to watch out for is, remember back in the 14 pair basket, they used to sometimes reverse pair 1 or pair 2, because sometimes those pairs would go in the opposite direction of the basket. So if you took a long basket trade, you wanted to reverse the first 1 or 2, and take a short trade with those. Well, you can still do that here. Set these to true if you want on the first 2. But remember, if you do this, if you set these to true, you really don't, and you're on a different basket, you don't want them to be true, like, you've imported a list up here like we did. We've imported this list. If I accidentally leave these set to true, it's going to reverse these first true. These reverse pair 1, reverse pair true, always take effect no matter which basket you're on. Even on a single pair. If you're just on a single pair and you have number one reversed and you go take a buy trade, it's going to sell it. So just remember that over here. I usually leave these to false. I really don't even use them anymore, but just in case somebody wanted them, they're there. Email, we all know what that is. If you want to set up your email, you can set that up. You have to set that up in your MT4 platform, and then it'll set this to true, and it'll send you an email. Turn your alarm sound on or off. Same way with push notification, you set that up on your MT4 platform. Screen capture, I usually do that's on, because what that does, it'll take a screenshot of the trade at the time it's taken, and it'll also take a screenshot of the trade at the time it is exited. That way you can look back at it and you can see what the robot saw at the time, because we all know some of these indicators redraw a little bit or charts can look different. So you want to see what the robot saw. So see why he did it wrong, or you thought he did it wrong, or whatever the deal is. This is just draw arrows. That's just putting your arrow on the screen where the trade is and the vertical line. And restore trade settings, if you want to use that, sometimes people shut down their platform. And this will, if you set that to true, it will try to restore the settings you had on there. It's maybe a hit or miss, so don't expect it to be perfect. And at Pips Multi, you can usually do that at 100, no trouble there. Show currency strength. That's this thing across the top up here with your different currencies on your strength. You can turn that on and off. Currency type is the sign. That's just a symbol that's going to put on the chart down here. When you get a trade going on, it's going to have a price down here. It's going to tell you what your profit or loss is for the entire basket. This is just the symbol it puts in front of it. Okay, so now we can go over and look at some of these buttons over here. Now remember, I'm going to hit cancel because all I was doing was looking at these. I didn't change any, and I can see my robot still running over there. I don't want to hit OK. Okay, now looking at the bottoms, you can look over here. The top one says Start Live Trading. Right now the robot is just kind of sitting there. All your stuff is being updated, but he is not going to take any trades. He's not going to enter any trades. He will still exit trades if you have one running. All this does up here, it stops him from entering a trade. You notice these R buttons here? Those are the robot buttons that show what the robot is capable of doing. And right now, as long as you got the Start Live Trading turned off, he cannot enter any trades. He can still exit them, because you notice this one is still yellow. That means he can still exit a trade. If there's a live trade going on, it will use all your exits you have selected or set up. Now if you turn him back on, now you notice he's turned green for the long trade and turned red. Now the robot is looking for a trade. And he will take a long trade or he will take a short trade. Now if you don't want him to take a long trade, say you want him just to look for a short trade, you can turn off the long trade. Now he will only take short trades. If you don't want him to take a short trade, you can turn that off. But basically, right now, the way this is set is the same thing as that right there. So, normally, you trade both directions, but if you only want to go one, just remember, these buttons with the R in are the robot buttons. Now, if you don't want him to exit any trades, you can turn off the exit. Now he will not exit any trades. Now these other buttons, we'll turn him back on here for a minute. And I'm just going to shut this off so don't pop a trade out. Now these other buttons, this long button, the short button, and the close basket button are all manual buttons. So anytime you want to take a trade, even if this doesn't say trading live up here, right now I could click on the long button and it would take a long trade. I could click on the short button and it would take a short trade. And if I have a trade open, if I click on the close button, it will close the trade no matter what these R buttons are. and it always closes the trades that are related to the magic number down here. So in this case, it will only close the magic number 4 trades. Okay, the next one here is the take profit pips. Now if you click on that, you notice it puts a line on here. That's your take profit line. Now you can grab that. It just puts it in an arbitrary position because what you're basically doing is you're putting it on the screen manually, and you can put that wherever you want. Now one thing you have to be aware of, I'm not in a trade right now. So what it didn't know if I was going to do a long trade or a short trade, so it just put it on the screen above the price action here. So now if I was going to take a short trade, of course I would have to move it down here because that's where the take profit line is. Same way with the stop loss. Stop loss is just going to put it below the price action. You have to decide where you want to put it if you're going to use it. And you can turn them back off again by deselecting them. Now you notice and remember you can move these around just by grabbing them. Now the stop loss, notice it comes up, stop loss. Now if I want to do a trailing stop, I just click on trailing stop. Now what it'll do, it'll keep trailing by that amount right there. Now if I want to change it, say I want it to trail farther away, what I can do is just move it down here, turn trailing stop back on. Now it's going to trail at that amount. And also you see the label here changed to HTSL, which is a trailing stop. So remember, if you want to change your trailing stop, always turn it off first. Then you can change it. Otherwise what it's going to do, it's always going to pop back to the original number. And then you get your break even, which you really won't notice anything on the break even when you first turn it on because it hasn't found the break even point. And like I said, you got to go that certain number of pips we had set before. I think it was like 210 or something. 7 times 30, I think it was 210. The price action would have to go 210 pips before the break-even line would be put on the screen. And the colors up here kind of match whatever is going to be put on the screen, so the break-even line would be a kind of a pink-colored line. Okay, now we also got breakout channels. If you click on that, it puts 2 lines on the screen. Now, normally in a breakout, these you can just grab and put them where you want. Now, one thing you got to watch out with these is a good idea to make sure you start live trading. This is turned off like this. If you have it turned on like this, you accidentally move this into the area down here, it's going to trigger the trade. So you want to have that off. But you're going to have 2 lines on here. If you want to make a channel or whatever you want to do, you could make a channel like that. And what would happen now is if the candle closed above this top line, it would take a long. If it closed below this bottom line, it would take a short. Now there's one other function here too, which is called kind of a pending order line. In this case, you can use the same 2 lines or one or both, whatever. But now the candle doesn't have to close above the line or below the line. All that has to happen is this gray line, the price action line, has to touch that line and it will trigger a trade. Now if you don't want to use both of these, all you got to do is delete one or the other. Now you got that one. And you can also tip them if you want to do a angle channel up or trend line break up, trend line break down to take a trade or whatever you wanted to do. And if you click on it again, it closes out. This black button will show you in a minute during a live trade. Alert just turns the alert on up here so you can see what the alerts were. And this is a Haas exit. Remember the Haas exit I was telling you about? It puts a line just below the last closed Haas candle with that offset if you use it, or above it depending on which direction you're going. That's what that is. That you can turn that on and off by clicking on it. Of course, it's not going to put anything on the chart right now because you're not in a trade. And this black one here is trendline exit. Now, that one only works during a live trade. So during a live trade, that one will come on, light up, and you can click on it, and it'll draw a line on the screen. And the line, if you're in an uptrend, it'll put a line down here. All you got to do is move that line around if you want to use it as a trend line exit, put it underneath. If you're in a short trade, of course, you put it above. And if the price action breaks back up through that line, it will exit the trade for you. Now down here, you notice I've added take profit, stop loss, break even numbers. While take profit, stop loss, break even was there before, but it was a little different. So you can kind of see what these are now. Now this is your setting. We didn't have a setting in there for take profit. It was all zeros, remember? But we did have a stop loss setting of 25 pips per pair. Well, we got what, 7 pairs down here? 7 times 25. 25 is your basic setting, is 175. So your stop loss would be 175. So if this entered a trade right now, it would put a stop loss down here of 175. Now it doesn't do that if I just click on stop loss, because now I'm doing it manually. And like I said before, manually it just puts it in a random space here. And then you put it where you want it. But you'll notice what it did now. It switched to manual. It told me I put that on there manually, and I'm also right at 107 pips. So if you measure this, we should be right around 107. If I can get the mouse on there. Yeah, right around 107. And if you double click it and move it around, see that number change? Tells you what your stop loss is. Or if you're above it, going the other way. Depends on what kind of trade you're in. It tells you what your stop loss is, and it tells us we're in a manual one. Now if I turn that back off again, now I'm back to the automatic setting we set back in the properties of 25 pips per pair, 175 pip stop loss. So if this thing opened a trade right now, the stop loss would be 175 pips. And if I wanted it to trail, I just turn that on and it would trail at 175 pips. Now if we go back, remember to stop the robot. And if we say we want to do take profit, if we put 20 pips in there, notice how it comes up over here now, 20 pips times 7, 140. Now if I turn the take profit on, you notice it comes up and it says I'm manual, because I did a manual take profit up here, and I should be at about 183. Now remember, that's just an arbitrary number. It doesn't mean anything. It just puts it someplace. Yeah, right around, there's 183 right there. And same way with the stop loss like before. Now if I move it around, see it change? It tells me how far away I am. Of course, now this is just manually here, so you can put these on here manually too during a live trade. That's what these buttons are up here for. You can do any of this live trade, but like I said, right now we're not in a trade, and the robot doesn't know if you're going to take a long trade or a short trade, so just arbitrarily puts it above the price action, the take profit, and it puts the stop loss down here. Okay, now we're going to go back. So we can set this back to 0. And we can set this back to 0. Now, if you want to do it on a percentage of the account, take profits. Okay, so say we set that for 2%. And if we want to do a stop loss, let's say 1%. Now, this ain't going to check to see if you got enough money in your account or not, so it's up to you to figure that out. And we click OK. You notice now how it comes up over here. 2%. And if you look down here, remember this is just an account we just opened up, a demo account. You notice our balance is $5,000. 2% of $5,000, of course, is $100 for the take profit. And we figured, what, 1% for the stop loss is $50. Now these numbers do not change. They do not put any lines on the chart. What those will look for now, when you open a trade, there will be a number here, profit or loss. If the profit reaches $100, it'll exit. If your loss down here goes into the red by $50, it will exit. That's what those watch for. Now you can also set that back to 0. Oops. Set back to 0. Now you can also take profit by dollar amount. So if I wanted to say $5 and a stop loss of $2, now it comes up at $5 and $2. And of course, like I said before, it's going to pay attention to what this profit or loss down here is, and that's what it'll be using to exit these. And remember, it says it puts no lines on the chart. The only stop loss or take profit that put lines on the chart are the pip ones. The dollar ones do not. So don't expect to look for any lines on there with these. These numbers will stay fixed unless you go back and change them. Now there's one other thing here. If you select, like it says, only pick one of these. So say we select 2 up there, 2 down there, whoops. For percent balance. So now we got a percentage and a dollar amount. If we click OK, notice it says no take profit, no stop loss, because it doesn't know what you want. You selected 2 of them. Now if you're in a trade, you can always select one manually, like this, and that will override that error you got there, because it's going to ignore those anyway. It will not take those because you got 2 of them selected. So if you're in a trade and you have that up there, you can always override it with these. Let's see, it says no stop loss, no take profit. That's because you went and selected 2 of them, and the robot doesn't really know which one you really want to do. And as I forget what we had to set, I think it was 25. I'm just using a pip stop loss. So now we're back to stop loss of 25 pips times 775. Okay, and this is your break even down here. This is your setting. You will not get a number here until your profit or loss goes through the 0 point. When you have no profit and you have no loss, you're at 0.00. The net price over here will be stored, and that will be written up here. Now these numbers are, this is your break even per pair. This is your offset, and this is times the number of pair. So in this case, you got 7 pair times 30, which is 210. So this is going to have to go 210 pips if you're going long, somewhere around there. So when the price reached 210 pips, which is up here somewhere, when the price action got up there, then all of a sudden a purple line, dotted line, would appear down here at this price number that had been determined, which is the break even. Unless, of course, you had an offset in here, where in this case we don't have any offset, we got it set at 0. Now if you had some offset in there, then of course that would be added to it, so it would be a little off. It would give you a little bit of a fudge factor. Now the entry here, you see there's nothing there, but when you enter a trade, when it opens a trade, you will get a price over here that tells you where you entered the trade at. And like I said before, the Haas, IXO1, IXO2 match over here, and you notice these are blue. Blue means that link is turned on. So if we go back over here, remember I ain't gonna change any. I guess I didn't have to do that just to look at them. If you go back here and look at the link, see, enable indicator link is set to true. That's why that's blue. Also, this is set to true. So the pairs over there is blue. Now, the one that is still orange is this one here, the restore trade settings, which I have set to false. If I had that set to true, the magic number would be blue like these. This would change to blue. What that means is you got your it's going to try to restore settings if you close during an active trade. And here's the pairs one down here is blue. This will change to orange if you turn that to false. So that's what those are. And also back on our settings, you notice we had selected entry 2 and entry 3 are the two entries we are using. The other ones are grayed out because we're not using them. What entry 2 requires is a Haas cross and an IXO1 and an IXO2 going in the same direction. And entry 3 requires the Haas to be the same color as IXO1, and then IXO2 has to be crossing in the same direction. So as you see it right now, we do have a Haas, got a blue Haas, and we got a red IXO1, and we got a green IXO2, so actually we're not going to get anything here. Okay, so just for the heck of it here once, show my trade window down here. As long as we're in an uptrend, we can I don't have to have the start live trading on, remember, do any manual trades. And since I'm going to do a manual trade, all I got to do is click on the long button here. You notice it'll turn green, There comes our line. And there comes, it just tells us we just took 7 trades. JPY7 took 7 trades. So we are in a long trade right now. And you notice we're negative down here. Entry was at 300.166 is where it entered at. So we're even up just a hair from where we entered. Now we got Haas selected up here, remember? You notice the Haas. And I think, now I'm just going to look. Remember, I'm not going to change anything, so don't click OK. I just want to see what the Haas offset is. Exits. 20 pips. Okay. Now I'm going to hit cancel. Don't hit OK. That way you just screw everything up. So I'm going to hit cancel. We're 20 pips offset on the Haas. So let's see what's here. If we expand this out a little bit, you can see this a little better maybe. So hopefully it should be 20 pips. Yeah, it's right in there. It's tough to get exact with the mouse. It's an offset of 20 pips. So the Haas was put 20 pips below the last closed candle. It always puts it below. In this case, an uptrend, it put it below it. If we were in a downtrend, it would put it 20 pips above it. So you can see there where it put the Haas. Let's see, we'll shrink this down a little bit more here. Now if I want to, we're in a live trade. You notice I do have break even selected, but we're not going to get break even until we get up to, what, 300, 210. So when this trade gets up to this area right here, then it'll put a purple or a violet line here showing you where the break even is. See, right now it hasn't reached that point. And it'll also, when this comes to 0.00, which is the break even point, when it passes that, it will put that number here so you know where it is. But like I says, it won't put the line on the chart until we get to our 210 pips. Now you can also, during a live trade, we're getting close here, so we may end up getting a number here if this keeps going up a little bit. We're in a live trade, so you can take profits if you wanna, and put it wherever you want it. You look over here, it says manual, 229 pips. That's what we're at. And that is measured. When you're in a live trade, it's always measured from the entry point. Now, if we weren't in a live trade, if we were just playing around with this, with no trade on the screen, it would measure it from the price action line. But since we're in a live trade, it measures it from that entry of 300.166. And we can also put a stop loss on here if we want to. There's your stop loss. You can have all these on there. Remember what I said? See how it popped back because I've got trailing turned on? You try to move it, it's going to pop back. So if you want to change it, if it's a trailing stop, turn it off and highlight it. Now I can move it. See, it didn't pop back that time. Now I can turn the trailing stop back on. Now it will trail at this distance here. But like I said, if I try to move it now, oops, missed it. Gotta be fast. It's gonna go back. Now you can shrink it up if you want to. I can go this way. It'll stay there, but as soon as the price action gets up to that point where the was originally, it will start trailing again. But I can never make it any bigger. It'll always go back to that point. And I can turn these off if I don't want them on. And I see we haven't made it to break even, so this is during the day on Monday, so it's pretty slow right now during the day and the afternoon, so and like I said, you can close the trade anytime you want just by hitting the close button up here, or right now, because this robot is active in the close part, the only thing that will close it right now is if it comes down here and hits our has exit. Because if you go back here and look at the properties, you notice I have a stop loss set at 25, right? And it says 25,175, but you know why it did not put a stop loss on the chart is because this is a manual trade. I opened it manually. Now let's try something here once. We'll close this one down. Okay, that's closed. I might make a change back here. I'm going to turn off the one trade per candle because I've already taken a trade on that candle. And I don't know what time is it. Oh, we might be getting close to the time when it would let to pop over to the next candle, but we'll turn this off for now. That way I can take more trades here. Okay, I got that turned off, so now I can do another trade here. We're probably going into the next candle, so I probably would have been okay, but what I want to show you is what a live trade, how it works with this stop loss, because see the stop loss is set at 25, and remember we did a manual trade that did not kick in. So what we're going to do, I'll use the breakout channels here to kick off a trade. Get this one, bottom one down out of the way a little bit, or you can eliminate whatever you want to do. And then we got the top one up here. And we'll take another long trade. Now you got to remember, you got to start the live trading because we're going to fool the robot into taking the trade now. Because we're going to fool him into breaking above this line. It's a breakout channel, so he's got to close. So all I got to do is move this line down below these candles. So now we got to close above the breakout line. And there it just took a trade. And you notice now we got our stop loss put on here. And it should be around, what did I say, 175, I guess, somewhere. Yeah. See, now it used these values, and now you can see it's tracking where it should be. Now, if I don't like that setup, all I got to do is turn him off. It's a trailing stop, so it's just a regular stop loss. Then go down here and double-click him and move him. I move way down here if I want to. And turn the trailing stop loss back on. Now he'll trail at that distance. And if I want to put a take profit on here, if I didn't have it selected over in my settings, remember I had it all set to 0, I can put a take profit on here if I want to. That's fixed, so you just grab it and put it wherever you want it. And if he keeps going up and up and up, just keep moving him up. Or you can go back and turn these both off if you want to. And that's the breakout channel. Now remember, we can get these off there if we want to. Now this is going to stay pink like that because this was a breakout trade we took. That's why it just kind of tells you it's a breakout trade. And also down here, remember, see how down here our entries are gone because we did not take an entry 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. This was a channel breakouts, so they are gone. We weren't using those, so those have been eliminated. Okay, now let's close the trade. Well, let's see. We can do, see now my trend line exit line is here. Like I said, it'll put a line on the screen. All you got to do is double click it. Just be careful when you're moving this one around because you're in a live trade. So say we want to put him down there. And if you, oops, watch out. You put that up there like that. When he closes below that line, he will exit. So let's see if we can get him to exit. Oops, there he goes. See, just like that. That's how quick it is. So you gotta be real careful when you're moving these lines around. There's no way to. Now that one, you could have stopped it from doing that. Let's take another trade here, I'll show you. If you wanted to play it safe, we'll take another long trade. Okay, now we got a long trade. Trend line exit. Let's put him back on there again. Now to be safe, what you can do, turn off the close. So now the robot cannot exit any trades for you. You're safe. Oops. Put him back down there again. Like before, notice he's not closing the trade because I turned him off. Now if I turn this back on, away we go, he takes the trade. Closes the trade, I mean. So most of the stuff is all usable right up here. So it makes it a little bit handier than having to go back to the properties. Now one other thing I can show you here is, let's open up let's just open up a chart. We just open up a single chart of a single pair, and we're going to put we'll put the robot on there, but I'm going to, for now, we'll stop him because he was set up for the basket, remember, and we only want to do him on this pair. So now we go into the properties, and what I'm going to change, remember this link down here? Turn that off. Set it to false. Don't put any name in here. You don't need any name in here. And you notice he found him. He found the chart we were on because the expert went and looked at the chart he was on and he saw this. Now the thing you remember we should have done, you notice I used that template from before. Change the EA number. You don't want the same EA on both of them, so I'm just going to change it to 5 because the other one is 4. Now we're 5. So now you can trade the US CAD all by itself using the EA. Now I haven't done a lot of experimenting with this, so I don't know if it's going to work or not. But everything should work fairly the same, your settings. If you want to take profit, or put a profit line on there, you just click it, it should come on there. Stop loss line, trailing stop, turn them on or off. All the buttons should work the same. Breakout channel, if you want to do a breakout channel. Yes, alert. Everything should be the same. You can use your entries down here if you want to, just like before. And it should work on a single pair. Now, of course, we're on the H1 chart here. I don't know. I usually don't go down any lower than the M15, so I don't know how these things are going to react when you get down to the M5 or the M1. I don't know. So I don't guarantee anything. This EA was designed for trading baskets, so if it works on a single pair, fine. If it doesn't, that's too bad, I guess. But anyway, so that's how you get it to recognize a single pair. Just turn that one thing off. Just set this to false. Because if I set it to true, it should get an error. Because it's going to look for a text file with this name, which there isn't any. And there you see it popped up with file USD CAD 60 not found. It could not find a file with this name, and because it couldn't find a file with that name, it loaded those default pairs that are already in there, which is actually the Core 5 basket, which is over here. It loaded these automatically. Okay, so one thing I should tell you too is if you set these to true, which I shouldn't have done. I'm going to cancel out of this. I should stop this, otherwise it kind of screws it up a little bit. Stop that. Now we'll go back and change it. I just wanted to show you what happens when you set them to false. If you change this from false to true, either one of them, and I'm going to turn the link back off so we don't get that error. Turn that off. Now we should load the USD CAD here. You see it did, but it's blue. So if I go and click, if the robot tries to take a long trade, or if I click on the long trade, what's going to happen is the robot's going to take a short trade because I got him reversed. Same thing with number 2. If I had that reversed and I had him in a basket, he would also take the opposite of what I select, either manually or the robot. Whatever one takes the trade, it's going to do the opposite. So you got to be careful of that. In our case, we're only looking at one pair, so you're only going to see one. I'm going to turn him back off again. Oops. And then he goes back to yellow. See, so now we're back into the normal. If I take a long trade, he's going to be traded long. Robot takes a long trade, you go long. So now rather than go down here and just close this like you would normally do, don't do that when the robot's running. Stop the robot. And you can even remove him if you want to before you close out this window. Otherwise it'll kind of hang for a little while. You don't want to do that. And then we're back over here to this one. And nothing new going on here. We're kind of caught in a range. So in a case like this, you may want to use your breakout channels, and you could put them on there. And if you get a close outside of that channel, it'll take the trade. Just remember to turn the trading back on up here, otherwise you're not taking any trades. Now remember these, I'll turn this off so don't pop off. These settings for the HAS and for the IX01 and IX02 are something you're just going to have to try to find, because there's nothing set in stone here or nothing that's fixed. So you're just going to have to try different ones to get something that looks good, or go onto the forum and get some from some people who have had good luck with certain settings. I believe that's where these came from, this 132.20. They just came from the forum. So that's where you just go and find some that work for you. You just have to experiment with them. One other thing you want to watch out for is, let me turn this back off again, is if you have multiple baskets down here, and say one pair is in the first basket and that same pair is over in the third basket, the same pair is in multiple baskets, and if you do not have hedging allowed by your broker, what will happen is if it opens up, say this basket opens up, you got a trade going on that one, and then all of a sudden you get a trade alert and it takes another trade on another basket that's got one of those same pairs in there. And if your broker does not allow hedging, what will happen is it will not open up that pair again in this other basket. So if it's a 7-pair basket and one of the pairs have already been opened in another basket, going in the opposite direction, of course, it will not open it over here. It will only open the 6 trades that are available. It will not open. But if your broker allows hedging, then you don't have to worry about that. So that's just another thing to watch. So that about wraps it up, I guess. We'll get this thing posted, and I'm going to shut this thing down. Like I said, always stop the robot. I always do. I'm just going to get him off here and close down this chart. Remember over here we had the, oops, I don't know why I did that. I must have bumped the wrong button. Go over here and indicators. I'm going to delete this one out of here for now. And we'll shut her down. So good luck.